My dad's will said, split everything equally. But my stepmother's lawyer claimed it meant she got the house, so I showed up with the original from his safe deposit box. Dad died 8 months ago. Heart attack at 52. He'd married Veronica just 3 years before, after Mom passed from cancer. I tried to be happy for him. He deserved companionship, but something about Veronica never sat right with me. At the funeral, she wore Versace, full makeup, diamond earrings I'd never seen before. She cried loudly during the service. Then I caught her checking her phone during the eulogy. When my brother tried to hug her, she literally stepped aside and said, "Not now. I'm grieving." 2 weeks later, she called a family meeting at Dad's house. Our house. The one my parents bought in 1998 when I was 6, where Mom planted roses every spring, where my brother took his prom photos, where Dad taught us to ride bikes in the driveway. Veronica sat at the head of the dining table. Her lawyer, some slick guy named Patterson, pulled out a folder. "Your father's will is very clear," he said. "Everything is to be split equally." I nodded. That sounded like Dad. Fair to the end. However, Patterson continued, the house was purchased during his marriage to Veronica. It's considered marital property. The everything refers to financial assets only. My stomach dropped. That's not what he meant. The will doesn't specify, Veronica said, examining her manicured nails. My lawyer says interpretation favors the surviving spouse. My brother started yelling. I sat frozen, watching this woman who'd known our father for 3 years claim the home we'd lived in for over 2 decades. "I'm not being unreasonable," she said. "You can take whatever furniture you want, but I'm keeping the house." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Dad's desk drawer, how he always kept important documents in his office safe. But Veronica had already cleared out his office. She'd donated his books, thrown out his files, erased every trace of him within a month. Then I remembered. 6 months before he died, Dad had insisted I add my name to his safe deposit box at First National. "Just in case," he'd said. "Someone needs access if something happens." The next morning, I drove to the bank. The manager led me to the vault. Inside the box was Dad's real will, the original, dated 2 months after he married Veronica. Handwritten notes in the margins. Specific instructions about the house. My children inherit the family home. Veronica receives the condo property and investment accounts. There was also a letter addressed to me. My hands shook as I opened it. "If you're reading this, something happened to me. Veronica is not who she seems. Protect your brother, protect the house. I'm sorry I didn't listen to you sooner. All the proof you need is in this box." Beneath the letter was a USB drive and a business card for an attorney named Rodriguez. I called him immediately. He'd been expecting to hear from me. "Your father came to see me 3 weeks before he died," Rodriguez said. "He wanted to change his will again, but Veronica had already begun the process of..." He paused. "We need to meet, today." I walked into Veronica's follow-up meeting with Rodriguez and the USB drive. My brother sat beside me. Veronica's smile faded when she saw the real will. Then we showed her what was on the drive. Medical records showing Dad's prescribed medication had been switched. Bank statements proving Veronica had been siphoning money for months. Email exchanges between her and Patterson discussing Dad's declining health 2 weeks before his heart attack. "You've got nothing," Veronica hissed. "This proves nothing," Rodriguez smiled. "Actually, the police are very interested in these emails, especially the ones discussing life insurance policies." That's when Veronica's face changed. For the first time, I saw real fear. And that's when 3 officers walked through the door. Detective Hammond led the group. He was tall, maybe early 50s, with gray at his temples and the kind of tired eyes that had seen too much. Behind him came 2 uniforms, hands resting casually on their belts. "Veronica Castellanos?" Hammond's voice was flat, professional. Veronica's fingers gripped the edge of the dining table. Her knuckles went white. "This is harassment. I'm calling my lawyer." "Your lawyer is welcome to meet you at the station," Hammond said. He pulled out a folded document from his jacket. "We have a warrant for your arrest. Suspicion of fraud, forgery, and conspiracy to commit murder." The room went silent. My brother's hand found mine under the table. His palm was sweating. Patterson stood up so fast his chair tipped backward. "My client has no comment. I need to speak with her privately before..." "Sit down, Mr. Patterson," Hammond interrupted. "You're next. We've been monitoring your communications for the past 2 weeks. Turns out attorney-client privilege doesn't cover conspiracy to commit felonies." Patterson's face drained of color. One of the uniforms stepped forward with handcuffs. Veronica actually tried to run. She made it 3 steps before the second officer caught her arm. "Don't touch me," she shrieked. "Do you know who I am? Do you know what I'm worth?" "Around $3.2 million, Hammond said calmly, consulting a small notebook. "Most of it stolen from your deceased husband's accounts. We've frozen everything pending investigation." They cuffed her wrist behind her back. She twisted toward me, and for a second the mask completely fell away. Pure hatred burned in her eyes. "You stupid little bitch," she spat. "Your father was a fool. He never loved you. He only kept you around because we were his children," I said quietly. "Something you'll never understand." Hammond led her toward the door. She fought the whole way, screaming threats and obscenities. The neighbors were probably having a field day. Patterson followed in his own set of handcuffs. Silent now, his expensive shoes shuffling against the hardwood floor Dad had refinished when I was 10. When the door finally closed, the house went quiet. Just me, my brother, and Rodriguez in the dining room where we'd eaten 1,000 family dinners. My brother broke first. He put his head in his hands and sobbed, big, shaking breaths that came from somewhere deep. I wrapped my arms around him and held on while he fell apart. Rodriguez gave us a moment. Then he cleared his throat gently. "I know this is overwhelming, but we need to talk about next steps." I wiped my eyes, nodded. "What happens now?" "The police will process the evidence. Given what's on that USB drive, this will likely go to trial." He pulled out his own folder, much thicker than Patterson's had been. "Your father was thorough. He documented everything once he realized what Veronica was doing." "How long did he know?" My brother's voice was hoarse. Rodriguez hesitated. About 4 months before his death, he noticed discrepancies in his bank statements. Money moving without his authorization. His pills looked different. He started investigating, but he didn't want to alarm you until he had proof. 4 months. Dad had known he was in danger for 4 months and hadn't said anything. He was trying to protect you, Rodriguez said, reading my expression. If Veronica suspected he told you, she might have. He stopped. Your father was smart. He knew he needed ironclad evidence. He hired a private investigator. That's what most of the USB drive contains. What's on there exactly? I asked. Rodriguez opened his laptop. Photos of Veronica meeting with Patterson 6 months before your father's death. Financial records showing she'd been planning this since before they married. Background checks revealing she'd done this twice before. My stomach dropped. What? Veronica isn't her real name. She's been Vivian Rothschild, Victoria Lang, and Violet Montgomery. Each time she married a widower with assets. Each time the husband died within 3 years. Heart problems mostly. Never enough evidence to prosecute, but he pulled up a photo. Her second husband's children suspected foul play. They couldn't prove anything. Oh my God, my brother whispered. Dad married a serial killer. We don't use that term lightly, Rodriguez said. But yes, the detective your father hired uncovered a pattern. Veronica targets men who've recently lost their wives, men with children from previous marriages, men with substantial assets. I thought about Dad at the grief support group. That's where he'd met her. She'd been crying about her own loss, some sob story about her husband dying of cancer. Dad had been vulnerable, lonely, an easy target. How did she do it? I asked. How did she kill him? Rodriguez pulled up another file. Your father's cardiologist prescribed him medication for high blood pressure. Low dose, very manageable. But the pills in your father's medicine cabinet weren't what the pharmacy filled. Someone had been switching them with a different medication, one that when combined with certain foods or drinks can cause cardiac arrest. The night he died, my brother said slowly, she'd made him dinner. She said she was trying a new recipe. Rodriguez nodded. The police will exhume his body. Toxicology reports from the autopsy should confirm what we suspect. If we're right, and I believe we are, Veronica will be charged with first-degree murder. The words hung in the air. Murder. Our stepmother had murdered our father. I stood up abruptly, walked to the window. Outside, the roses Mom had planted were blooming, pink and white and deep red. Dad had kept them going after she died, watered them every morning, pruned them every spring. Veronica had tried to rip them out last month. My brother had stopped her. There's more, Rodriguez said quietly. Your father wanted you to know everything. I turned around. More? He pulled out another document. Veronica was pregnant when she married your father. My brother made a choking sound. She miscarried 2 weeks after the wedding. But your father never knew she was pregnant in the first place. She told him it was complications from fibroids. He paid for her surgery, $15,000 out of pocket, because she claimed her insurance wouldn't cover it. Let me guess, I said. There was no surgery. The hospital has no record of her ever being a patient. Rodriguez closed the laptop. Your father discovered this 3 months ago. That's when he knew for certain what she was. 3 months. He'd lived with that knowledge, slept in the same bed as her, eaten meals she prepared, all while gathering evidence. Why didn't he just leave? My brother asked. Why didn't he divorce her and be done with it? He tried, Rodriguez said. He filed papers 8 weeks before his death, but Veronica found them. That's when things escalated. The private investigator noticed Veronica following your father, photographing him, meeting with Patterson more frequently. Your father knew he was running out of time. The safe deposit box, I said. He was preparing for the worst. Rodriguez nodded. He came to see me 3 weeks before he died. Told me if anything happened to him, I should contact you. He said you were smart, that you'd figure it out. He smiled sadly. He was right. My brother stood up, started pacing. So what happens now? She goes to prison? If the evidence holds up, yes. The DA is confident. Between the financial crimes, the forged will, and the murder charge, Veronica will likely spend the rest of her life in prison. Rodriguez gathered his papers. But the process will take time, months, maybe a year before trial. You'll need to testify. Whatever it takes, I said. Rodriguez left us his card, told us to call anytime, day or night. As he walked to the door, he paused. Your father loved you both very much. Everything he did, every risk he took, was to protect you. I hope you know that. After he left, my brother and I sat in silence. The house felt different now, lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted. We should change the locks, my brother finally said, just in case. I nodded, and go through everything, make sure Veronica didn't hide anything else. We started in Dad's office. Veronica had cleared it out, but she'd done a sloppy job. Behind the bookshelf, we found a folder she'd missed. Inside were more letters from Dad, one addressed to each of us. Mine was 3 pages long. My dearest daughter, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have listened to you from the beginning. You never liked Veronica. I saw it in your eyes every time you looked at her. But I was lonely after your mother died, and Veronica made me feel alive again. It took me too long to see the truth. By the time I realized what she was, I was already trapped. But I want you to know something important. I never stopped thinking about you and your brother. Everything I did, every decision I made, was to protect you both. The house is yours. It always was. Your mother and I bought it together, and it holds every memory of our family. Don't let Veronica take that from you. Fight for it. Fight for your brother. You're stronger than you know. I've made provisions. Rodriguez has all the details. Trust him. He's a good man. I love you. I'm proud of the woman you've become. Take care of your brother, take care of each other, and take care of those roses. Dad. I read it 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and put it in my pocket. My brother's letter was shorter, but similar. Instructions to trust me, to fight, to remember what family meant. We found other things too. Photos Veronica had hidden, of her meeting with Patterson 6 months before she married Dad, Of her with another man, kissing in a parking lot 3 weeks after the wedding, of her going through Dad's home office, photographing documents. Dad had been building a case. Methodically, carefully. He was going to take her down, my brother said, holding up a photo of Veronica and Patterson having lunch. Even if it killed him. It had killed him, but he'd made sure we'd finish what he started. The next few weeks were a blur of police interviews and legal proceedings. The DA assigned to the case, a sharp woman named Foster, walked us through what would happen. The evidence was overwhelming. Veronica had been sloppy, overconfident. She'd left a digital trail a mile wide. Patterson cracked almost immediately. Cut a deal with the DA in exchange for testimony. He'd met Veronica 5 years ago at a legal conference. She'd pitched him on a scheme. She'd find the marks. He'd handle the legal paperwork. They'd split the assets. They'd done it twice successfully before Dad. How much did they steal total? I asked Foster. From all 3 victims? Close to $8 million. She slid a spreadsheet across her desk. Your father was the wealthiest. They stood to clear over $3 million from his estate if they'd succeeded. The exhumation confirmed what we already knew. Toxicology found lethal levels of digoxin in Dad's system. Combined with the grapefruit juice Veronica had been serving him every morning, his heart had never stood a chance. The trial was set for 8 months away. In the meantime, my brother and I moved back into the house. It felt strange at first, walking through rooms where Veronica had lived, sleeping in bedrooms she'd occupied, but slowly we reclaimed it. We packed up everything that was hers, donated her clothes, threw out her makeup and jewelry, repainted the master bedroom, and we took care of the roses. Every morning, I'd go outside with the watering can, the same green plastic can Dad had used. The roses were thriving now, almost like they knew. My brother found a job nearby, marketing for a tech startup. He'd been living across the country before Dad died, but he came home now. I can work remotely, he said, and someone needs to help you maintain this place. We fell into a routine. Dinners at the dining table where we used to sit as kids. Coffee on the back porch where Dad used to read the paper. Slow, quiet evenings where we talked about everything except Veronica. Until one night when my brother asked the question I'd been avoiding. Do you think he knew? At the end, I put down my wine glass. What do you mean? When he had the heart attack. Do you think he knew Veronica had done it? That she'd killed him? I thought about it. Dad collapsing in the kitchen. Veronica's 911 call that came 3 minutes later than it should have. The way she'd been crying at the hospital, but her makeup hadn't smudged. Yeah, I said quietly. I think he knew. That must have been awful. Dying and knowing the person who was supposed to love you had murdered you. We sat in silence. He died protecting us. I finally said, that's what matters. He made sure we'd have the evidence. He made sure we'd win. 6 months later, the trial began. The courthouse was packed. Media everywhere. Veronica's case had become national news. Pretty blonde woman accused of murdering multiple husbands for money. Every network wanted the story. I sat in the front row next to my brother. Rodriguez sat behind us. Foster stood at the prosecutor's table, organizing her files. Veronica was led in wearing an orange jumpsuit. Prison had changed her. Her hair was dull, pulled back in a messy ponytail. No makeup, no designer clothes. She looked small, ordinary. She didn't look at us. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Foster was methodical. She called the private investigator Dad had hired. He testified about following Veronica, documenting her meetings with Patterson. He showed photos, presented phone records. Then came the forensic accountant. He walked the jury through every stolen dollar, every forged check, every wire transfer. The cardiologist testified about Dad's medication, how the pills had been switched, how the combination of digoxin and grapefruit had induced cardiac arrest. Veronica's defense attorney tried to claim reasonable doubt, suggested someone else could have switched the pills, argued that the emails could be interpreted differently. The jury didn't buy it. When Patterson took the stand, it was over. He detailed everything, how they'd met, how they'd planned it, how Veronica had targeted Dad specifically because of his recent widowhood and substantial estate. She said widowers were perfect, Patterson testified. Vulnerable, grateful for attention, easy to manipulate. I watched Veronica's face. She sat stone still, no emotion, like she was watching someone else's trial. On the final day, Foster played the recording. Dad had been wearing a wire the last week of his life. We didn't know. Rodriguez hadn't told us. But Dad had convinced the private investigator to help him get evidence. The recording was from 2 days before Dad died. Veronica's voice came through the speakers. How much longer? I'm tired of waiting. Patterson's reply. Soon. I've prepared the paperwork. Once he's gone, we move fast. File the fake will before the kids realize what's happening. And if they contest it, they won't have time. We'll have everything liquidated and transferred within 48 hours. By the time they get a lawyer, the money will be gone. Veronica laughed. Just like the others. Exactly like the others. There was a pause. Then Veronica said something that made my blood run cold. I'm increasing his dose tonight. Double what I've been giving him. His heart can't take much more. You're sure it will work? It's worked twice before. The courtroom erupted. The judge banged his gavel. Veronica's attorney jumped up, shouting objections. But it was too late. The jury had heard everything. They deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. First-degree murder, fraud, conspiracy, forgery. The judge scheduled sentencing for 2 weeks later. Veronica was let out of the courtroom. As she passed our row, she finally looked at us. Her eyes were empty, dead inside. Your father was weak, she said, just like the others. My brother lunged forward. I caught his arm. She's not worth it. Security pulled Veronica away. We never saw her again. At sentencing, Foster pushed for life, without parole. The defense attorney argued for leniency, claimed Veronica had suffered abuse as a child, that she'd been manipulated by Patterson. The judge wasn't interested. Mrs. Castellanos, he said, you deliberately targeted vulnerable men. You inserted yourself into their lives. You gained their trust. And then you murdered them. You are a predator. A calculating, cold-blooded predator. This court will not show you the mercy you denied your victims. Life without parole, plus 90 years for the financial crimes. Veronica showed no reaction. She was led away without a word. Patterson got 25 years. He'd cooperated, but he'd still been complicit in 3 murders. After the sentencing, Foster took us to dinner. Your father would be proud, she said. You got justice for him. We got justice for all of them, my brother said. The other men she killed. Foster nodded. Their families have been informed. They're grateful. One of them wants to meet with you, if you're open to it. The next week, we met Harold Chen in a coffee shop downtown. He was in his 70s, slightly stooped, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Thank you, he said immediately. Thank you for what you did. My father died 6 years ago. We always suspected Violet. That's what she called herself then. But we couldn't prove anything. I'm sorry, I said. I'm sorry we couldn't stop her sooner. You stopped her eventually. That's what matters. He pulled out a photo. This was my father, Raymond Chen. He was a good man, like your father. We talked for 2 hours, shared stories about our fathers, about how Veronica had inserted herself into their lives, about the warning signs we'd missed. She was good, Harold said. Professional. She knew exactly how to play the grieving widow, how to seem supportive and loving, until she got what she wanted, my brother added. Exactly. Before we left, Harold hugged us both. Your father saved future victims. Remember that. If he hadn't gathered that evidence, she'd still be out there, still hunting. Over the next year, we slowly rebuilt our lives. My brother got promoted at work, started dating someone he'd met at a coffee shop, brought her to family dinners. I took a leave of absence from my job, used the time to process everything, to grieve properly. Because beneath all the anger and the justice and the satisfaction of seeing Veronica convicted, there was still grief. Dad was gone, really gone, and no trial could bring him back. On the first anniversary of his death, my brother and I held a small memorial service. Just us, Rodriguez, and a few of Dad's close friends. We planted a new rose bush in the garden, a deep red variety called Remembrance. Rodriguez gave a short speech. Your father was a brave man. He faced evil and didn't back down. He protected his children even when it cost him everything. That's the definition of a hero. That night, my brother and I sat on the back porch. The roses were blooming in the moonlight. Do you think he knew? My brother asked. That night, when Veronica gave him the extra dose. Do you think he knew it was the end? I thought about Dad's letter, about how he'd prepared everything, about the safe deposit box and the evidence and the wire recording. Yeah, I said. I think he knew, and I think he accepted it, because he'd done what he needed to do. He'd protected us. I wish he'd told us sooner. We could have helped. He was protecting us then too. If Veronica had suspected we knew, she might have... I stopped. Dad did what he thought was right. We sat in silence, watching the stars. I miss him, my brother said. Me too. 2 years after Dad's death, I finally went through the last of his belongings. Boxes in the attic that we'd avoided, old photos, tax returns, notebooks from his college days. At the bottom of one box, I found a journal. It was leather-bound, worn at the edges. Dad's handwriting filled every page. I almost didn't read it. It felt like an invasion of privacy. But on the first page, there was a note. For my children. So you'll understand. The journal chronicled everything. Meeting Veronica at the grief support group. How she'd pursued him. How flattered he'd been by the attention. Then it shifted. Entries about noticing money missing. Pills that looked different. Veronica's odd behavior. June 3rd. Found bank statement in recycling. $5,000 withdrawn. I didn't make that withdrawal, asked Veronica. She said it was for house repairs. There haven't been any repairs. June 15th. My medication looks different. Same bottle, same pharmacy label, but the pills are a different shade. I called the pharmacist. He confirmed they filled the correct prescription. So where did these pills come from? July 2nd. Followed Veronica today. She doesn't know I saw her. She met with her lawyer at a restaurant downtown. They were going over paperwork. From what I could see, it was a will. My will. But I never signed that document. July 18th. Hired a private investigator. Can't trust anyone else. Need proof. Need to protect the kids. If I'm right about what Veronica is, they're in danger too. The entries became darker. More urgent. August 1st. The investigator confirmed my suspicions. Veronica isn't who she says she is. She's done this before, multiple times. I'm not her first husband. I'm her third. The others are dead. August 10th. I'm scared. Really scared. But I can't let her know I know. Have to keep pretending. Have to keep gathering evidence. The kids need proof. Otherwise, she'll get away with it like she did before. August 23rd. Met with Rodriguez today. Updated my will. Added notes and instructions. If something happens to me, Rodriguez will contact the kids. They'll know what to do. They're smart. Smarter than I was. September 4th. Wearing a wire now. The investigator set it up. Recording everything. Veronica and Patterson don't know. Need to catch them discussing the plan. Need irrefutable evidence. September 14th. Got the recording yesterday. Veronica confirmed everything. She's planning to kill me. Soon. She said she's doubling the dose. My heart can't take much more. The next entry was dated September 16th, the day before Dad died. September 16th. This might be my last entry. I can feel my heart struggling. The medication is taking its toll. I'm dizzy, nauseous, short of breath. Veronica is watching me closely, waiting. I'm not ready to die. There's so much I wanted to do. So many things I wanted to say to my kids. But if this is the end, I need them to know. I love them. I'm proud of them. And I'm sorry. Sorry I brought Veronica into our lives. Sorry I didn't see the danger sooner. Sorry I'm leaving them to clean up my mess. But they'll do it. I know they will. They're strong. Stronger than me. To my daughter, you always had good instincts about people. Trust those instincts. They'll serve you well. To my son, you have a good heart. Don't let this make you cynical. There's still goodness in the world. Take care of each other. Take care of the house. Take care of the roses. And remember, I loved your mother with everything I had. When she died, a part of me died too. Veronica seemed like a second chance, but she was just a predator wearing a human mask. Don't make my mistakes. Don't trust too easily. Don't ignore red flags. And if someone seems too good to be true, they probably are. I love you both. Dad. I closed the journal, sat on the attic floor and cried. My brother found me an hour later. I handed him the journal without a word. He read it in silence, tears streaming down his face. He knew, my brother said. He knew he was dying and he still protected us. I finished. We sat together in the attic, surrounded by boxes of Dad's life, photos of him and Mom on their wedding day, birthday cards we'd made as kids, report cards he'd saved, a lifetime of memories. We did good, right? My brother asked. Dad would be proud? Yeah, I said. We did good. 3 years after Dad's death, my brother got married. He asked me to walk him down the aisle since Dad couldn't be there. I wore Mom's pearls, carried a bouquet that included roses from Dad's garden. During his vows, my brother choked up. My dad taught me what it means to be a good man. He showed me that family is worth fighting for, worth dying for. I promised to honor his memory by being the kind of husband and father he was. There wasn't a dry eye in the venue. At the reception, we toasted Dad, shared stories, laughed at memories. My brother's new wife pulled me aside. Thank you for raising him right. He told me everything you did after your dad died, how you fought for justice, how you protected your family. You're amazing. I hugged her. Welcome to the family. I know I can't replace what you lost, she said, but I promise to love your brother the way your dad loved your mom. For real. Forever. That night, driving home from the wedding, I thought about Veronica. She was rotting in a maximum security prison somewhere. No appeals had worked. She'd be there until she died. And I was here, living, loving, honoring Dad's memory. Justice had been served. 4 years after Dad's death, I met someone. His name was Dimitri. He was an architect, thoughtful and kind. We met at a bookstore, both reaching for the same title. He made me laugh, made me feel safe. On our 4th date, I told him everything. About Dad, about Veronica, about the trial and the evidence and the journal. I expected him to run. Most people did when they heard the story. But Dimitri just took my hand. Your father sounds like an incredible man, and you sound like your father's daughter. We got married 2 years later, in the backyard of Dad's house. Our house now. My brother walked me down the aisle. The roses were in full bloom. I wore Mom's wedding dress, altered to fit, carried roses from Dad's garden. Rodriguez officiated. Love is worth fighting for, he said. Your father proved that. He fought for his children even when it cost him everything. That's the kind of love we're celebrating today. The kind that endures, the kind that protects, the kind that never gives up. Dimitri and I honeymooned in Italy. When we returned, we started renovations on the house, updating the kitchen, refinishing the floors, making it ours while honoring the history. But we kept the roses. Always the roses. 5 years after Dad's death, my brother and his wife announced they were pregnant. It's a boy, my brother said, tears in his eyes. We're naming him Raymond, after Dad. I hugged him hard. Dad would love that. Little Raymond was born on a spring day. The roses were blooming. My brother brought him home from the hospital and took him straight to the garden. This is where your grandpa used to work, my brother told his infant son. He'd want you to know about these roses. They were your grandma's favorite. He kept them alive for her, and now we keep them alive for both of them. 6 years after Dad's death, we got a letter. Veronica was dying. Cancer. Stage 4. She had maybe 6 months. She wanted to see us, to apologize. My brother wanted to ignore it. She doesn't deserve forgiveness. I agreed. But something made me write back anyway. We visited her once, at the prison hospital. She looked ancient, shriveled, nothing like the glamorous woman who'd worn Versace to Dad's funeral. I'm sorry, she rasped. I'm so sorry for what I did. To your father, to all of them. My brother stayed silent, stared at the wall. I looked at Veronica's hollow eyes, saw no real remorse there, just fear. Fear of dying. Fear of what came after. You're not sorry you did it, I said quietly. You're sorry you got caught. Veronica's face twisted. He was nothing. Just another mark. They were all nothing. My brother stood up. We're done here. We walked out. Never looked back. Veronica died 3 months later. Alone. No one claimed her body. The state buried her in an unmarked grave. 7 years after Dad's death, I got pregnant. Dimitri and I had been trying for a while. When the test came back positive, I cried. Happy tears. Grateful tears. It's a girl, the ultrasound tech said at 20 weeks. That night, Dimitri and I sat in the garden. What should we name her? He asked. I looked at the roses. Thought about Mom, about Dad, about everything they'd sacrificed, everything they'd built. Rose, I said. We'll name her Rose. Perfect. Dimitri smiled. After your mother's roses. After my mother, I corrected. The roses were hers first. She planted them, and Dad kept them alive for her. Now we keep them alive for both of them. Baby Rose was born on a summer evening. She had my eyes, Dimitri's smile, and a fighting spirit that reminded me of Dad. When we brought her home, my brother was waiting with little Raymond. He'd brought a tiny rose bush to plant in her honor. Family tradition, he said. Every new baby gets a rose. We planted it together in the garden, next to Remembrance, next to all the others. 8 years after Dad's death, I finally felt at peace. The house was full of life. Rose learning to walk, Raymond starting kindergarten, family dinners every Sunday, holidays celebrated with laughter and love. The pain of losing Dad never fully disappeared, but it transformed, became something bearable. A bittersweet ache instead of a sharp wound. Sometimes I'd find myself in his old office, now converted to a playroom. Rose's toys where Dad's desk used to be, Raymond's artwork covering the walls. And I'd remember, Dad teaching me to ride a bike in the driveway, his patience when I fell, his pride when I finally got it. Dad helping with homework at the dining table, making terrible jokes to help me relax before tests. Dad walking me to the bus stop on my first day of high school, his hand on my shoulder. "You've got this," he'd said. All the small moments that made up a life, a father's love for his daughter. Veronica had tried to erase all of that, tried to steal our home, our history, our father's legacy, but she'd failed. Dad had made sure of it. 9 years after Dad's death, my brother and I established the Raymond Castellanos Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to helping families navigate complex probate cases, especially cases involving suspected elder abuse or financial exploitation. Dad would want us to help others, my brother said at the opening ceremony. He didn't want anyone else to go through what we went through. We funded free legal services, hired investigators, helped families uncover fraud. In our first year, we assisted 43 families, recovered over $2 million in stolen assets, brought charges against 11 predators like Veronica. Rodriguez served on our board. Foster joined as well. Both of them donated their time and expertise. "This is your father's legacy," Rodriguez said. "Justice, protection, family." 10 years after Dad's death, we held a ceremony at the house. All our family and friends gathered. The garden was in full bloom. Roses everywhere. Every color. Every variety. My brother stood at the podium we'd set up on the patio. 10 years ago, we lost our father. He was murdered by someone he trusted. Someone he loved. It nearly destroyed us. But Dad made sure we'd survive. He left us evidence, guidance, and most importantly, love. He gestured to the garden. "These roses represent our family, our history, our resilience. Each one planted with intention. Each one cared for with dedication. Just like Dad cared for us." I stepped forward. "Dad taught us to fight for what's right, to protect the people we love, to never give up, even when the odds seem impossible. That lesson saved us, and now we're passing it on." We unveiled a bronze plaque at the garden's entrance, in memory of Raymond Castellanos' beloved father who fought for justice, even when it cost him everything. The roses remember. Rose and Raymond helped us plant another rose bush, a new variety we'd cultivated specifically for this. Deep red petals with gold edges. We called it Justice Rose. "Will great-grandpa be able to see it?" Rose asked. She was 4 now, old enough to ask questions, too young to understand the full story. "Yes," I said. "He can see it, and he's proud." "How do you know?" I looked at my daughter, thought about everything Dad had done, every sacrifice, every calculated risk, because love doesn't die. It just changes form. Great-grandpa's love is in these roses, in this house, in all of us. Rose seemed satisfied with that answer. She grabbed her watering can and started helping with the new plant. That night, after everyone left, Dimitri and I stood in the garden. The stars were out. The roses glowed in the moonlight. "You did it," Dimitri said softly. "You honored your father, protected his legacy. We all did. My brother, Rodriguez, everyone who helped. But you led the way. You found the evidence. You refused to give up." I thought about that first morning at the bank, opening the safe deposit box, finding Dad's letter, the USB drive, all the proof we'd needed. "Dad led the way," I said. "I just followed his instructions. He chose you for a reason. He knew you'd be strong enough." Maybe that was true. Maybe Dad had known I'd fight, that I wouldn't let Veronica win. Or maybe he'd just hoped, prayed, done everything he could and trusted that it would be enough. Either way, it had worked. Veronica was in prison until she died. Patterson was serving his sentence. The other victims' families had closure, and Dad's legacy lived on, in the foundation, in the garden, in his grandchildren who would grow up hearing stories about their brave grandfather. "Thank you, Dad," I whispered to the stars, "for everything, for protecting us, for believing in us, for loving us enough to fight." The wind rustled through the roses, and just for a moment, I could have sworn I smelled Mom's perfume, heard Dad's laugh, felt their presence in the garden they'd built. 11 years after Dad's death, my brother's second child was born, a daughter they named Grace. 13 years later, I had another baby, a boy we called Nathan. 15 years later, the foundation had helped over 300 families, recovered $15 million, brought charges against 62 predators. 20 years after Dad's death, we gathered again in the garden. Rose was 22 now, graduated from law school, planning to join the foundation full-time. Raymond was 18, headed to college to study criminal justice. "They're carrying on Dad's work," my brother said, "just like we did." I watched Rose explaining something to little Nathan, watched Raymond playing with Grace. The next generation growing up with the same values Dad had instilled in us. Justice, family, love. "We broke the cycle," I said. "Veronica tried to destroy our family, but instead she made us stronger." "Dad made us stronger," my brother corrected. "He showed us how." That night, I read Dad's journal again. I'd read it dozens of times over the years, but it still moved me, still made me cry. Take care of each other. Take care of the house. Take care of the roses. We'd done everything he'd asked. The house was full of love, full of family, full of the next generation who would continue the legacy. And the roses? They bloomed more beautifully every year. 25 years after Dad's death, my brother and I were grandparents. Rose had 2 kids. Raymond had 1. Grace was pregnant with her first. We'd outlived Veronica's prison sentence by decades. Outlived Patterson, too. He'd died in prison 3 years ago. Heart attack. Ironic. The foundation was thriving, now international, helping families worldwide. Dad's story had become a case study in estate law, in recognizing elder abuse, in fighting back against predators. His death had meaning. His sacrifice had saved countless others. "Do you think he knew?" my brother asked one evening in the garden. We asked that question often over the years, never tired of discussing it. How much good would come from what happened? I looked at the Justice Rose. It had grown massive over the years, a centerpiece of the garden, blooming even in winter somehow, defying nature, just like Dad had defied Veronica's plans. "I think he hoped," I said. "That's all any of us can do. Hope our actions matter. Hope we make a difference. Hope the people we love remember us. We remember, my brother said. Every day. Every day, I agreed. 30 years after Dad's death, I was 73. My brother was 70. Both of us gray-haired. Both of us marked by time. But the garden still bloomed. The house still stood. The foundation still fought. And Dad's grandchildren, now adults with children of their own, still told stories about the grandfather they'd never met. The hero who'd saved his family. The man who'd fought evil and won, even at the cost of his own life. Tell us again, my granddaughter asked one evening. She was 8. Same age I'd been when we first moved into this house. Tell us about great-great-grandpa Raymond and the bad woman. I looked at my brother. He nodded. Your great-great-grandpa was very brave, I began. He loved his children more than anything. And when a bad person tried to hurt them, he didn't run away. He fought back. Did he win? The little girl asked. I smiled. Looked around at the family gathered in the garden. 4 generations. All because Dad had been brave enough to fight. Yes, I said. He won. Not the way he wanted to, but he won. Because love always wins in the end. Always. The little girl seemed satisfied. She ran off to play with her cousins. My brother put his hand on my shoulder. We did good. Yeah, I said, we did good. And in the garden, the roses bloomed eternal. A living memorial to a father's love. A testament to a family that refused to break. A reminder that justice, no matter how long delayed, eventually finds its way home. Just like Dad had known it would. Just like he'd planned it. Even from the grave, Raymond Castellanos protected his children. And his children, in turn, made sure his sacrifice meant something. Made sure his story was told. Made sure no other family would suffer what we'd suffered. The roses remember. And so do we.